Each leg moved in perfect sequence now, adapting easily to the ridge of a knuckle or the gap between two fingers. The tape began peeling at the edges, so Frances lifted the splintered leg to press it back down. The spider, having shown remarkable patience up to this point, decided enough was enough, and sunk her fangs into the skin between Frances's thumb and forefinger. She cried out and dropped the spider, which skittered around the table legs, up the side of her bed and into her suitcase. "No, not in there!" Frances peered inside and found the spider waiting, 4 hairy legs raised, poised for attack. She shoved the suitcase off the bed with a yelp, spilling shirts and slacks and socks onto the floor. The spider zigged and zagged across the carpet before it disappeared beneath the wardrobe. Frances sat on the foot of her bed and sucked at her hand, watching the bite marks swell up from the surface of her skin. A metal box near the door crackled to life as her mother's tinny voice filled the room. "Frances, would you please join your father and me downstairs? Over?" Was it time to leave already? Frances threw open the curtains and blinked as sunlight filled her room. She rarely slept, and dawn had a way of sneaking up on her. She crossed her room and pressed the button next to the speaker. "Getting dressed. Over." Frances stuffed her clothes back into the suitcase, forcing it shut with her knee, then shimmied out of her pyjamas and kicked them under the bed. She pulled one of the remaining blouses from the wardrobe along with high-waisted short pants and green suspenders. A bow tie and a pair of two-toned leather brogues finished the ensemble. It was a boy's outfit, Frances knew. If it were up to her, she'd wear a white lab coat at all times, or the denim coveralls she wore to tinker with her father's machines. Pants were the next best thing. She'd cut her hair, too, which bobbed just past her jaw, but that's where her mother drew the line. "Short hair doesn't suit you," she would often say. Frances suspected the real reason had more to do with her missing right ear. That was a dreadful business. An automobile accident before her 4th birthday. She remembered very little from that night, or the months that followed. Her parents seldom talked about it, and she tried to seldom think of it. She certainly wasn't going to let it sour her mood today. Frances dragged her suitcase into the hall and locked the door behind her, a habit she picked up during the reign of one of her nosier tutors. The hallway was long and narrow, with musty green carpet and dark wood trim. A faded floral pattern papered the walls: white edelweiss, pink rhododendron, purple orchids, and Frances's favourite, pale green Cursium spinosissimum, spiniest thistle. Portraits of relatives she'd never meet crowded either side. Leaning over the railing, Frances could see all the way to the ground floor in one direction and the atrium skylights in the other. It had been 7 years since the accident, 7 years since her parents said they wanted to keep her inside for a few months to observe her recovery. A few months became a year, then 2 years, then 5, and so on. By then it was her way of life, and she rarely thought to question it. Until 1 week ago, when she found a glossy piece of paper in her father's jacket pocket. It was a brochure for the Symposium of Science and Invention in Brussels. She was reading it when her father walked into the room. "I'd like to come," she said, squaring her shoulders. "I'm ready." He didn't respond, but she could see on his face he had understood. That was all the encouragement Frances needed. She had spent every day since in preparation, plotting train routes, studying Brussels architecture, and combing through her mother's magazines for photographs of the cities she would pass along the way. Victor and Mary Stenzel were scientists. Between them, they held patents on 37 inventions and had received dozens of prestigious awards, including, very nearly, a Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1932. Both were still young, for world-renowned scientists, and Mary, at least, was quite striking. In certain circles, they had become something of a celebrity couple. None of that impressed Frances. For her, it meant only that her parents spent a great deal of time sailing around the world speaking at conferences and fundraisers, sometimes 6 months out of the year.